Hi, this is Sergeant Beast Larson. This video, action response continuum, talking about use of force continuum, the chart, the progression, individual response, officer response. Use of force 101, the beginning. Now, I'm retired from police. I've worked in private security. I've worked in a mass security prison 4 years. My police academy I went through in Kentucky, and the part of legal, the use of force part was taught by attorneys. I've been to some FBI training through U.S. Marshals, a high-risk response. I've been on 2 SWAT teams, so I've had a lot of training in this. It's always been taught by attorneys. So what I'm telling you is not the Sergeant Beast Larson interpretation. This is the attorney and the law interpretation. Breaking this down pretty simple. Again, this is for Sioux Falls. Use of force 101. If you pull this up on Google, you'll see a nice, pretty color chart. I've got several pages here. I'm going to put them up one at a time. Okay? Individual response. Not responding to commands, verbal or physical. The danger clues. The officer tells them to do something, they're not doing it. They're passive. They're not listening, not responding, just staring, just passive. Is this. The officer's response first is presence. Backup officers, 2 or 3, 4 officers. By the presence and them giving verbal direction, verbal physical commands, telling them what to do, to stop, to move, turn around, put your hands behind your back. That's direction. If you got 3 officers telling somebody, turn around, put your hands behind your back, they should do this. If they don't do this, you begin resisting. The danger clues. The shirt says Bruce Lee on it, karate shirts. Now, I love Bruce Lee. But when they have martial arts shirts, MMA, American Fighter stuff, and then they want to start standing, making fists, start flexing muscles, trying to make your veins pop out. When the police are talking to you and they need to deal with you, that's not the time to flex. People, you don't flex, you don't show muscle, you don't grit your teeth like this. When the police are saying, hey, you've got a warrant, you got to go to jail, and you're like this, that's a danger clue, okay? People bring force upon themselves. I'll say this more than once. Don't blame the officer when the individual. I did a podcast with my brother and another professor the other day. We need to get away from the suspect officer. Don't treat people like suspect, the perpetrator. Individuals, people, the man, the woman. I wrote individual on here. If you look at this, Google this, it also says individual. Trying to get away and treating people like they're statistics, something that's on a piece of paper. They're human beings. Human beings do good things and they do bad things. Statistics are just numbers. Balanced displacement. I've got a video on this. On all these little breakdowns that I'm going to talk about on these pages, I have videos that detail each one of these one at a time. Balanced displacement, taking them off balance. And that's verbal commands, telling them to do something. They want to stand and posture like this in a fighting thing. Just ask them to step a little bit closer or farther away, step to the side. Get them out of this stance, get them to move a little bit. So now they're not in a tactical stance. Easier for anything else you need to do as an officer. Officer assistance. Presence and assistance, they go hand in hand. Why? Strength in numbers. You've heard that before. So this is pretty simple. This is the very, very beginning. Now let's go to the next one. Refusing to move, dead weight. Passive, just, I'm not doing anything. Sir, you're under arrest, you're intoxicated, I'm going to place you under arrest, put some handcuffs on, search you, you're going to jail. And they're just like this. The individual like this. What does the officer do? That's when you have takedowns. Hip toss, arm bar, wrist lock. I don't have the space to write all these down. That's too much writing for you to capture. Joint manipulation, like I said, wrist locks, arm locks, pressure points. I have a great video about pressure points. Pressure points in the arms, all the way up into the neck, temporomandibular, hypoglossal, infraorbital, brachial nerves right here, common peroneal strike. Does this ring a bell? That's where these come into place. Your takedown, joint manipulation, pressure points, striking major muscle groups, not a punch to the face and a jaw. This isn't major muscle group. Major muscle group, your leg, your thigh, Yes, I got shorts on for a reason. Workout day. Hot. It also matches my shirt. Major muscle right here. Common peroneal. This thigh muscle, hip muscles are huge. Arms, that's where you're striking. Arms, shoulders. Shoulders are green. Green on your chart, remember? Major muscle groups. Now some departments, in our department, as soon as they say no, passive or aggressive, you're under arrest, turn around, put your hands behind your back, and they say no. Our department policy on the sheriff's department was we could use the OC and taser at that point. And the purpose of that is to avoid hand-on-hand physical confrontation. To avoid that. The goal, keep the officer and the person from being injured. When you get into wrestling and fighting and things, you risk joints. You risk yours and their joints, shoulders. I mean, you're going at each other. It's not professional wrestling. It's not choreographed. So things can happen. People can get injured. Let's go to the next level. Next level right here. Oh. Individual starts pushing the officer, wrestling with the officer. Officer's trying to make arrest. He's already told him you're under arrest. Once that's said verbally, that person, by law, is in custody of the officer. They're in custody, whether they're in restraints or not. What's the importance of that? You get wrestling, you get away from the officer and run away. If he's told you, which, body camera's going to show this and play this verbally, audio, sir, you're under arrest, and you end up wrestling and running, now you have an escape charge. Escape. Not just resisting, but escape. Escape from custody. Pushing, wrestling with officer. I'm saying this is the second time. Why? Officer. Now this chart has the OC, taser, baton restraints. Baton restraints. Slide it up under their arms, called a running arm lock, strong side arm lock, weak side arm lock, wrist drags. I did these all the time with the PR-24. It's not a strike, it's a restraint. It's control technique. No injury to the individual. And then the officer, striking, punching, and kicking. Where? Your major muscle groups, your nerve points. Strike to the radial, brachial strike. Strike right in here. Brachial plexus tie-in, where the shotgun hits you. Femoral nerve. Common peroneal nerve. See, inside, outside of the leg, two different nerves. You come up with a knee strike right here or a knee strike on the outside. Muscle, hit the shoulder, the back of the shoulder. Striking, punching, kicking. Knee strikes fall into this right here too. Remember, you grab and pull in. Great video on that. Check them out. So think about this before I go to the next page. What you've seen with the riots and everything. This is June 2020. These protests, the demonstrators, the out of controlness, the attack on the police officers that you continually see. The George Floyd incident, then the incident with the officer, the two officers, and the man. I didn't say suspect, I said a man. He was a man at Wendy's in Atlanta, Georgia. Pushing, wrestling with the officer. Pushing, wrestling with officer. That's what he did. There's several video. There's also a Wendy's surveillance camera. He's pushing, wrestling with the officer, two officers, trying to get control. This is what's in their legal tool belt. This is according to the laws, to the federal laws. Not to my law, to the federal laws. OC, taser, baton restraints, striking, punching, kicking. All these things the officer can do. I'm saying this twice for a reason. This has got to sink in. This has got to sink into people. Now we're moving up to the next level. We started really simple. We're beyond passive now. We're aggressive. This man-woman is aggressive. The individual is aggressive. Now striking or kicking officer. Not just wrestling, trying to get away. Defensively and offensively like that. This is aggressive. This is the individual striking like this, punching, kicking to the officer. Now remember, with the use of force chart, you go up, you escalate, it's going up. Use of force can also go down. And after the next page here, I'll explain the going down. And in the podcast I explained, there's times I've went up and down the use of force 4 or 5 times in just a minute or two, depending on the individual's actions. Baton techniques. This is your forward jab, side handle jab, rear jab with the baton, PR-24 baton. Your asp, your strikes, radial strikes, compronial, femoral strikes. You're striking and hitting now. The PR-24, forward reverse spin. You've heard of that? Forward reverse spin. Now you're hitting both. Compronial, femoral. So when they're punching and kicking at officers, which you see on TV all the time, this is not a political situation. This is a defend the officer self situation. So he's already passed takedowns, joint manipulation, pressure points, striking muscle groups, OC, spray, which is tear gas, chemical agent, taser, baton, punching, kicking, strikes, baton strikes. Okay, all the way up to that. Now here's this unique word right here. They keep talking about this rear naked choke, rear naked choke. I have not been to any police training, and I've been to several instructor schools. They do not teach this rear naked choke you keep talking about. That's MMA. That's watching people on TV in the octagon. This is not about the octagon. This is about professional law enforcement, self-defense response. Police officers, correction officers. The shoulder pin. In Kentucky, they taught the shoulder pin in the police academy. What is the shoulder pin? One arm up. You get behind them, so you're reaching around like this and you're squeezing. You're going to squeeze on the side of this individual, the man or woman's neck, with one arm up. This arm provides the stabilization and the pressure on this side. So you're squeezing right here, right at the bottom of my shirt line, right here and here. That's your 2 points of pressure, here and here, and you're squeezing together. That's sideways, folks. There's no trachea involved in that. It's the side. It's not a rear naked choke. Rear naked choke is coming right here, putting your radial bone right here, straight into their Adam's apple and squeezing straight back. That's what you do in MMA and in wrestling. That's what you do in a paid-per-view fighting sports event. That's not what they teach in law enforcement. They don't teach rear naked choke. They teach shoulder pin. What you're doing, you're depriving the brain of oxygen and blood flow. So slowly they start to go to sleep. I've done this several times and this several times. And as soon as you let go, people wake up. They come back and they're ready to fight really quick. No permanent damage. You're making them sleepy so you can better control. Catch your breath, have you go to your plan B, C, D, using these other techniques to control pressure point joint locks. This is not to the throat Adam's apple and it's not killing anybody. Lateral vertical neck restraint. I wrote it out. Here's this. What is this? This is your basic wrestling move. You reach around, you squeeze. So you've got your forearm and inside your bicep shoulder on both sides directly. The shoulder pin is here. The lateral vertical neck restraint, or the sleeper hold they say in wrestling on TV from the old days, you're squeezing right here. The inside of your wrist right here creates a gap and protects. This is what it looks like, and it stabilizes. See, this is on right here. I would be squeezing on both sides of the neck. You go like this and then you wrap around the cradle. This void is where they still breathe. You're slowing them down. You're going to make them slow down, fall asleep to pass out. And as soon as they do, you get cuffs on. You do the sternal rub, which is like patting on in the middle of the back. Can't reach my back. You pat them on the back, they wake right up. They're ready to go. Retired from police, military, private security, max security prison. I've used these many times. I've not killed anybody. And they got up and they thanked me for not hurting them when I got done. Because this just makes people go to sleep. It's not painful. And they realize things could have been different. They realize by me doing this and talking to them to calm them down, they thanked me for showing compassion. Compassion. As I explained to my brother and the other professor, there needs to be compassion in use of force. There can be. I showed compassion. Never once been sued in over 30 years for any use of force. I've explained what I've done and why I did it and what I did immediately afterwards. When I talk to people, talk to internal affairs, they looked at me and they're like, wow, I wish more people were like you. You can do all this really quick. Show compassion, and you're not killing anybody. Here we go. Let's get back to this right here. Now we're to the end. Life-threatening weaponless assault. Wrestling with the officers are on the ground. They start like this. The officer's about to pass out. The officer has to explain he's in fear for his life, that he's about to pass out or die from blood loss or traumatic injury. The officer's response is deadly force. You know what that means? Whatever it takes to stop this individual, including firearm. Deadly force, the definition, is serious force used for serious bodily injury or death. Life-threatening weaponless assault. Attempt to disarm officer. Trying to take the gun away from officer. Hello, 2 officers fighting with a man in a Wendy's parking lot in Atlanta. He's fighting, he's reaching, tugging, he's trying to get a gun away. Officers have gun, they have taser. Many officers carry a backup gun. I carried a backup gun. This is the other reason why I have shorts on, so you can see my left ankle, because you draw from the inside. I carry 2 guns and a taser. So on the ground wrestling with people, I have two actual Glocks and a taser. Attempting to disarm. So by the laws of use of force taught by the attorneys that's been in the state and the federal system here, attempting to disarm an officer in that struggle, technically, by law, they could have discharged, they could have shot him on the ground right there for disarming this. Even if there's 2 officers against 1, if he gets that gun, they're both dead, and everybody in the parking lot could be dead. So before he even got out and tried to run away, which is escape, because he was in custody when they said you're under arrest, deadly force was applicable, justified, because remember, intent, opportunity, and ability. You're trying to take my gun. If I'm trying to take a gun away from you, why? I'm not going to take it apart and clean it for you. I'm not going to take it apart and sell it. I'm taking a gun from you, the police officer, to harm you or somebody. That's deadly force. So if you go back and look at this and you want to really think and debate this, wrestling trying to disarm on the ground was a deadly force situation right there. Weapon used against the officer. Now I'm going to tell you, we had 3 range officers in our department. The state firing range officers, attorneys, the legal section, all 3 of our range guys, the FBI, the marshals, every training I went through the different police and agencies and federal agencies, they will teach if this individual, the man or the woman, has a taser, it's a deadly force situation, discharge your firearm. Because if I have a taser and I come up to you as a police officer, I can tase you, and while that's going off for however long, the X-26 wasn't timed. That thing, as long as you held the trigger, it would go off. So I can tase you, walk up, take your gun, and shoot you while you're still getting shot. I've been tased a couple times. I can't move my hand to defend my guns like this. There's barely movement. So if you're being tased, you cannot reach your hand up, trap it, focus your energy, and hold that gun in place when somebody's tasing you. You're going to be like this or like this. Even if your hand's this way, you're not going to be able to control it because your nerves are shaking, your central nervous system. So that person is going to disarm you and use it against you. So I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm not being hint of a suggestion. I'm just telling you. I've been trained by state and federal agencies for many, many years, over 30 years. If they point a taser, they got a taser, that's deadly force. There's no other way to look at it except some political agenda that somebody has. Nowhere on any of these pages did I write politics, did I? No. None of these decisions are made politically. So folks, first day in correction officers, don't be scared. Look this chart up, screenshot it on your phone, on your computer, whatever. Look this chart up, action response curriculum. And each department will have their own. They'll be pretty similar. The individual's actions, officer action. When they're doing stuff, they're fighting. Your correction officer, inmates want to shove you and start hitting you. Well, you've moved up pretty far really quick. Escalate, get to the point. And it's the +1. Whatever they're doing, you're one page ahead, 1 point ahead. Except for the deadly force. It has to meet this. Don't be afraid about using force. Be confident, learn this, be confident to explain this person, this man or woman did this, this, and this. This is how they looked. This is how they postured, gripped their fist, karate stance, went like this, specifically making their hands like this so they can poke, jab, gritting their teeth, all these faces. I love facial expressions. You just need to explain that and be confident in your explanation. Now, other folks, and this is sad, I've told this in my other video, had an inmate, a 20-inch piece of broom handle sharpened to a point on both ends. I tell him to drop it and he says no. A broom handle sharpened to a point, this big around, you know how broom handles are. That thing could pierce me. I tased him, and then when he wouldn't get his hands away from it, I tased him a second time. Before they watched the taser video, I was already accused of excessive force and a whole bunch of other stuff. I said, I'm not talking until you see that. I have a right to due process. You look at the videos, you collect the evidence, and then we talk. When the video came out and they saw what I said and saw what I saw, they was apologizing. People stopped trying to fire the officers, stopped trying to put pressure and suspend everybody instantly because of political pressure. Chiefs, administrators, stand up for your officers. The law says you're innocent till proven guilty. Officers that are forced to use any kind of force because of another person's actions has a right to be heard and a right to due process also. Hear both sides of the story. And thirdly, individual side, officer side, evidence side. Look at the video, get witness statements, collect the evidence, then make decisions. Stop pre-deciding things before you have all three elements. Both statements and the physical evidence. Lastly, remember reactionary gap, 4 to 6 feet. Personal space, 3 feet. Intimate space, less than 18 inches. Nobody's in your intimate space unless that's the person you plan on putting a ring on their finger, somebody you plan on spending the rest of your life with. You don't let anybody in your intimate space. Personal space, 3 feet or less, you have very little reaction time unless you're like a ninja. That's why 4 to 6 feet is your reactionary gap. Think about that. This is the basics 101 to help you. I know I talk fast. I was trying to get through this without keep it under 30 minutes. Think about this. Look this up. There's a whole bunch of different charts. Look it up. Learn it. Learn some of these techniques, pressure points, joint manipulations, the wrist locks, the arm bars, turning people around, put them in the hammer lock. Learn these, practice them, get confident with them. Look at my other videos. I break a lot of this down one at a time. Look at it, be confident, and be safe. Thanks for joining.